Ozone is an important reactive gas influencing the atmosphere, air quality, solar radiation, and climate. Ozone is also a vital chemical composition of air pollutants formed through chemical and photochemical reactions. Biogenic volatile organic compounds including isoprene and monoterpenes, key precursors of ozone, are easily oxidized to produce new gases, liquids and particles, for example, secondary organic aerosol or small-sized particulate matter in the atmosphere. An empirical model of ozone concentration based on energy point of view is developed to study the photochemistry of ozone and biogenic volatile organic compounds. We selected the Qianyansu subtropical Pinus plantation, Tahe County, Jiangxi Province in China, as our experimental site. A 45-meter tower was built in this Pinus plantation forest for flux, solar radiation and meteorological measurements. And ozone concentrations, biogenic volatile organic compound emission fluxes and solar radiation were measured from May 22, 2013 to January 4, 2016. Based on the principle of photosynthetically active radiation energy balance, the ozone empirical model considering isoprene and monoterpene roles are developed, respectively. For processes associated with photosynthetically active radiation transfer above the canopy are considered. 1. Photosynthetically active radiation attenuation caused by biogenic volatile organic compounds. Isoprene and monoterpene terms represent photosynthetically active radiation attenuation by isoprene and monoterpenes, and described as 2. Photosynthetically active radiation absorption and use caused by other gases, liquids and particles, when they are taking part in chemical and photochemical reactions through excited nitrogen dioxide, hydroxyl radicals and water. 3. Ozone absorption in the visible region is described as 4. The scattering of gases, liquids and particles is described as S and Q are solar diffuse and global radiation. Scattering factor horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation describes the relative amount of gases, liquids and particles in the atmosphere, including gas molecules, aerosols, clouds, haze and rain. Considering the roles of isoprene or monoterpenes, respectively, the photosynthetically active radiation energy balance at a horizontal plane above the canopy is described by following equations. The ozone empirical models considering the roles of isoprene or monoterpenes are developed as 18 and 8 samples were obtained in the development of the empirical model of biogenic volatile organic compound emissions for considering isoprene and monoterpenes, respectively. It provides a reliable dataset to study the multiple interactions between ozone and biogenic volatile organic compounds, as well ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, aerosols, and photosynthetically active radiation. The calculated ozone concentrations agreed with those measured with relative biases of 7.4% and 9.1% for considering isoprene and monoterpenes, respectively. More details about the ozone empirical model can be found at the link. There are some important mechanisms of hydroxyl radicals production. 1. Ozone reacts and produces hydroxyl radical in the ultraviolet region. 2. Excited nitrogen dioxide reacts water and produces hydroxyl radical in the visible region. Hydroxyl radicals produced from these two processes react with biogenic volatile organic compounds to form high concentrations of ozone and secondary organic aerosol, particulate matter. Secondary organic aerosol contributes to clouds formation, and clouds attenuate solar ultraviolet, visible and near-infrared radiation and influence the regional radiation balance and vertical and horizontal air motion. The emissions of biogenic volatile organic compounds and their oxidation, along with the above associated potential effects, are interacted with and controlled by ultraviolet and visible energy. As the concentrations of each gases, liquids and particles cannot be measured, and many mechanisms associated with ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, secondary organic compound formation are unknown at present. The direct photosynthetically active radiation absorption and indirect photosynthetically active radiation used due to gases, liquids and particles are calculated by the photochemical term using an energy method. Because water vapor plays an important reactant or bridge role in chemical and photochemical reactions, especially in the processes of hydroxyl radical formation. Water vapor is used as a surrogate to represent all absorbing gases, liquids and particles, and the photochemical term expresses the entire energy use, associating with all atmospheric constituents, apart from the isoprene or monoterpene terms. Energy method is used to deal with complicated interactions in photosynthetically active radiation, biogenic volatile organic compound emissions and oxidation, aerosols, as well as to develop empirical model. The responses of ozone concentration with the changes of each driving factors were calculated using empirical model ozone concentration. It is shown that 1. Ozone responds negatively with the changes of isoprene in good light and atmospheric conditions, example, high photosynthetically active radiation, high temperature and low horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation. And positively with the changes of isoprene in bad atmospheric conditions, example, low photosynthetically active radiation, low temperature and high horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation. It indicates that ozone formation form biogenic volatile organic compound oxidation dependence on the light and atmospheric conditions. 2. The response of ozone concentration to the changes of photosynthetically active radiation was positive, indicating ozone formation is driven by solar energy. 3. The response of ozone to the changes of water vapor was positive, revealing that ozone formation is beneficial from enough water supply. 4. The response of ozone concentration to the changes of horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation was positive, reflecting fine particles are produced with ozone through chemical and photochemical reactions. In the future, high ozone concentration or pollution events would be appeared more frequently, with the increase of vegetation planting and emission control in nitrogen oxides and sulfur dioxide, along with clean atmosphere and high solar radiation. It is deduced from our study and proved by Lee team that the United Kingdom surface nitrogen dioxide levels dropped by 42% during the COVID-19 lockdown, but ozone increased compared to previous years. To understand the relationships between ozone and its influencing factors in natural atmosphere, ozone concentrations were calculated using the empirical models for considering the roles of isoprene. The atmospheric gases, liquids and particles were divided into small groups with the interval of 0.1 between 0 and 1. All other parameters were also divided into small groups with the same interval as the horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation values. The relationships between the calculated and observed ozone and each of the factors, photosynthetically active radiation, water vapor, horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation, air temperature, relative humidity were nonlinear. Generally, the calculated and observed ozone showed similar features and interactions with each of the influencing factors nonlinearly, exhibiting that ozone was produced with the increases of photosynthetically active radiation, temperature, relative humidity, water vapor and gases, liquids and particle loads when these factors are at low levels. And then ozone decreased with the increases of photosynthetically active radiation, temperature, relative humidity, water vapor and gases, liquids and particles after the driving factors reached their peaks, at which the mean values were 2.0 moles negative square meter. It reveals that 1. Ozone and fine particles are produced simultaneously at low gases, liquids and particle loads, and ozone formation is inhibited at high gases, liquids and particle loads. 2. The production and destruction of ozone and fine particles depend on light and atmospheric conditions. The relationships between hourly nitrogen oxidase concentrations and horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation were showed that nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and nitrogen oxides decreased with the increases of horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation at low horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation and increased with the increase of horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation, reflecting that the nitrogen oxides is also important ozone precursors when gases, liquids and particles are low, but the turning points of nitrogen oxides lag a little compared with other factors. meaning that more nitrogen oxides still participate in the chemical and photochemical reactions to produce ozone even in low biogenic volatile organic compound emissions, photosynthetically active radiation, temperature and water vapor, after horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation greater than 0.55. It is the reason that reduction of nitrogen oxides emissions is adopted. The gases, liquids and particle amounts are important factors in controlling the interactions of ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, water, gases, liquids and particles, radiation. Ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, water vapor and nitrogen oxides vary with horizontal diffuse to global solar radiation nonlinearly, and ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds and gases, liquids and particles interact through the light, an important energy source. All above observed and simulated results and mechanisms associated with ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds and other factors should be considered in further ozone pollution control. Ozone empirical models were useful tools to investigate the multiple interactions and mechanisms in ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, water, other gases, liquids and particles. Photosynthetically active radiation under realistic atmospheric conditions. It will benefit us to control ozone pollution, in which strategies are selected in the future. Empirical models of ozone concentration for considering the roles of biogenic volatile organic compounds can be used as a tool to better study the multiple interactions and mechanisms in ozone, biogenic volatile organic compounds, water, other gases, liquids and particles, photosynthetically active radiation under realistic atmospheric conditions. It will help us how to select suitable strategies in ozone pollution control, facing the issues that more and more trees and grasses will be planting in China and in the world for fulfilling the carbon peaking and carbon neutrality goals.